Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Today, Bridget Griffin shared a video of her daily yoga routine, 2 self-help articles, and her new blog called Build Your Inner Bridge with Bridge. Girl, your sharing has turned into oversharing. No worries, Bridge. Geico has some info worth sharing with your 7 blog followers, like how you could save money on your car insurance, update your policy, and report a claim just by visiting geico.com. How's that for building your inner bridge? Bridge? Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Blog Talk Radio.
All right, race fans, you know what time it is. It's that Dirt Talk Hour time. Glad to have y'all with us here tonight. It looks like we're going to have Damian Bean out of the studio here tonight. He's having some problems with his telephone there. So just glad to have each and every single one of y'all. Man, oh man, we got the dirt race season kicked off. And boy, oh boy, it was a barn burner both nights. First night at Hattiesburg Speedway, and then the second night over at the Deep South Speedway in Loxley, Alabama. Definitely a state-of-the-art facility over at the Deep South Speedway. I want to thank J.D. Wells and that whole staff over there for giving us the opportunity to come out, along with the ASCS sprint cars, sponsored by Lucas Oil, Mike Miller, and his whole crew. And I want to give a big thanks to Donald Parker as well for having such a successful first race of the season. And it was definitely a good turnout. There was nowhere to park. That's probably an issue that many tracks wouldn't mind having at least once or twice. Kind of a little bit weird is Jason. Jason, are you back there in the studio?
Yeah, I'm sitting here listening to you.
Okay, all right. We loud and clear and everything. It's kind of weird without Damian on board here.
Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Temple. All right. Well, anyway, so it was a great weekend. We'll go over some stats here in just a second of who won. Hattiesburg Speedway, like I said, was a standing room only crowd. Probably about 200-300 people were in this actual standing area, so it was a full house. Wish we'd had a few more cars turn out in the other series, but man, it was something to see 28 sprint cars at Hattiesburg Speedway. That was probably the biggest sprint car count in a very long time. So I hope that momentum carries on and they have a really successful season, because I tell you what, it has been something to see the growth of the sprint cars and the fans' reactions to that kind of thrill of speed. And these are no mini sprints, not knocking them, but this is these. I mean, these are very fast cars, so it definitely adds to the level of entertainment there, and really gives you, the race fan, something to catch a thrill, really. I mean, it's a thrill like you wouldn't believe, watching the air come off the tires and the sides of the thing. Damian said he can't hear the show. I hope everything's okay on the outside line. If somebody's listening in here, go ahead and give us a shout out that we're loud and clear. That way we know everything's going good. We have a group forum over. Just look for the Dirt Talk Radio, Dirt Talk Hour group forum, and you can kind of chat back and forth with us. We have some special guests on tonight. First of all, it's going to be Spencer Brayton. He's a sprint car driver. We'll get a little bit more information from him, from Damian, as he gets himself settled out. And then we have Seth Bergman from Washington State. He was the winner of Night 1 at Hattiesburg Speedway. And then Brian Bell from Tennessee, he was the winner of Night 2 at the new Deep South Speedway. So we have some entertaining guests coming on here tonight. And like I said, Jason, Mr. CJ Sports, is back there in the studio. We have that number here where you can give us a call at. We will be taking a few phone calls here before the guest. It's 718-664-9861 is the call-in number. If you want to speak to the guest, let us know. I think Duck Owen said he wanted to call in tonight. Tammy Davis, we appreciate you listening in. Rosetta Sparks, we appreciate you listening in. We see y'all tagging in there. Ryan Slade, we do appreciate you. Ryan, when we got our name on him, he was a feature winner Friday night at Hattiesburg Speedway in the Pure Stock Division. So big shout-out to our buddy Ryan Slade on that F-117 jet fighter mobile. Tell you what, that thing was super fast, and he had a lot of control of the car on a track that was dry slick. It really shows the talent these Pure Stock guys are capable of. Mark Hollenhead says we sound loud and clear, so glad to have him. Also, I met a new guy this weekend from the pit stop. His name's Ben. We'll be getting more in touch with him as well. But let's move on over into the winners over at Hattiesburg Speedway. We call them the stars of the cars. And well, Damien, I can't help you, buddy. I'm sorry. Damien's trying to stay in touch with us here, and he's just having so many technical difficulties. We're going to rename him Technical Difficulty. I'm Technical Problem. He's Technical Difficulty. Thanks, Mr. J.D. Wells. All I needed was another nickname, you know. But anyway, we'll go on into the Hattiesburg Speedway Facebook page here where it's been posted of Friday night's winners. Starting off the night was the Outlaw class, Outlaw Streets, that is. Alan McLemore swept the night. Actually, he took the heat win and then turned around and took the feature win as well. In the sprints, in Heat 1, Andy McKellen, he picks up the win. Heat 2, it was Michael Miller. Joey Schmidt won Heat 3. And Heat 4, Terry Gray won. And the B-Main, Brendan Hankson. And the feature winner, it was Seth Bergman from Washington State. In the street stock side, Heat 1 was won by Mickey Trosclair, but in the feature, Jake Getty, they call him the tree hugger, took home the victory. In the modified, Mr. Powell, Brian Powell, won Heat 1. Mark Herbert in the L88 took Heat 2. But not to fail, the feature winner tonight was Ben Stevens, who ran second last week to Greg Hollingsworth, who was also finished ahead of Ken Schrader, who finished third at Magnolia Motor Speedway for the Frostbuster. In the Crate Late models, Shannon Lee picked up a heat win. Good start of the season for the General in the 47. But Michael Arnold was the fastest in the feature. He took home that win and the $1,000. Heat for the Pure Street, Mike Whitney showed up in the Camaro, number 9. He got the heat win. But as we stated earlier, Ryan Slade took home that feature win. Over to the new Deep South Speedway, we'll try to get some stats from them from this weekend. Let's see if we can get them pulled up real quick. Well, we'll go to one other media source real quick. We have the updates there on my personal page, Chris Creighton or Yellow Caution Flag. It's my personal page. You can find all the updates through if you'll just go down my personal timeline there. So we're going to go to here real quick. Sorry for kind of the dead air there. We'll go ahead and read them off of mine there real quick. Uh-oh. Well, we're having problems there too. Okay, well, never fails. You know, we run into problems all the time, so we can't get the thread to go back that far for some reason on our computer system right now. But anyway, as we said earlier, I do know one good point. A 13-year-old kid in the pure stock class had just moved up to stock car racing. His name is Dustin Booth. He picked up his first career stock car win at the new Deep South Speedway. Also, I do believe Leslie Brown won the Outlaw race and they split the bounty between him and Alan McLemore. There was a $500 bonus given to the best average finisher between the two tracks of Hattiesburg Speedway and the new Deep South Speedway. Well, our guest will be calling here in just a minute. We'll be speaking to him. We're having kind of a sprint car night, I guess to say. It just worked out like that. But I tell you what, it's always fun to be on the airwaves, and I hope you're being fully entertained right now. Spencer based on here in just a moment, and we'll get our interview started with him. We do want to give you a quick notice that we are racing Friday night at Hattiesburg Speedway. Also, Saturday and Friday practice will be held at Why Not Motorsports Park for the third annual Battle of the States. That's a big race there. I believe Mississippi has 6 total wins. Alabama has 3. And Tennessee, I believe, holds the other medallions in recent competition. So it's going to be a big-time event over there. Expect 100, 120, 140, 50 cars. Why Not Motorsports Park? It's going to be a big show, always is. And we appreciate Rodney Wing and everything that they do for the great racing. Why Not Motorsports Park is just a few minutes down the road from the house here. And that's kind of the home track. That's where that's where I got this thing started at. And so we always want to recognize them and the accomplishments that have been made with that relationship. So,
hey, Chris.
Jason, yes, sir.
Yeah, we got our first guest in the studio.
My gosh, how about that, man? I thought I was over here dying, man. I mean, I was getting red up underneath the lights. I was trying to come up with something to say, but this should make things a little bit more interesting, guys. Thank y'all for holding through us as I terribly went through our opening scene there. Hopefully we didn't lose too many listeners. But now we got Spencer Baston on to here tonight. Spencer, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh, man, great now that I have somebody to talk to, man. Look, I know you were a scheduled guest for Damien. Unfortunately, Damien's had some technical issues and couldn't be on here tonight. So our information about you is a little bit lean. But, man, I mean, in this business, I guess what we do is we stick the microphone in front of you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Spencer.
Well, I'm 17. I'm from Lebanon, Indiana. I attend Lebanon High School here in Lebanon, and I am currently racing for Keith Kuntz Motorsports and 97 Toyota Racing Midget.
Okay, now explain to us about the midget class. I'm looking at your Facebook page, and y'all don't have a wing on your car. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we are we're running a midget national midget series. So I run the USAC and PowerI midget series. We cars weigh about 1,000 pounds. Yeah, we don't have wings, so we're running non-wing out there. Toyota motor, kick out about 350 to 400 horsepower. So they're not as big and bad as those wing sprint cars, but they're still a lot of fun to drive.
Now, let me ask you something, Spencer. Are you from a family of racing, or is this something that you just wanted to get into? You were a gamer and decided to make it go live, or what? Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, my family, we were not into, my dad didn't race, my grandpa didn't race. I don't have any family members that raced in the past, but my grandparents did grow up or did have a place, and I kind of grew up over there in Illinois, northern Illinois, and Fairbury American Legion Speedway. So we'd go over there and watch the late models and modifieds, and all those guys roll through there, and I always loved going to the races. We went a lot. We weren't real big into it, just kind of liked to go when they were around. But then when I was about 8 or 9, one of my buddies here in town ran a quarter midget. And so I went and tested it one time and, convinced my dad to get one. And he's like, all right, well, we can do this for kind of for fun and just hobby race. And ran 2 full seasons. And a lot of guys are moving up to micro sprint. So moved up to micro sprint just after 2 seasons, and then ran that for a couple of years, and then got into national midget running for Brian Clausen these last 2 years, and now we switched over this year to Keith Coons.
Tell us a little bit about the Brian Clausen ride. Was that your first big time ride? How did that come about?
Yeah, it was definitely the first time we actually raced for other than like a hobby. I mean, it was still kind of a hobby, but it was a little more serious because back when we ran quarter midgets and micros, it was just my dad and I running out of our shop here, doing everything on our own, just kind of going when we had time. Didn't really make a big schedule. So yeah, when we ran in 2014 was my first year in a midget. That was the first time we actually ran like on a national tour type deal, and yeah, it was obviously first year. You spend a lot of time learning, still learning today, but yeah, they got me really comfortable really quick in that car, and second year was a lot better, made a lot of progress, but yeah, ended up making the switch over to Toyota Racing.
So you're at Toyota Racing now. Tell us about the approach that was made, and was it a planned separation, or was it just a better opportunity? And tell us about that.
Well, the Brian Clausen, of course, is running his 200 race schedule this year, which means he's obviously very busy. And one of the cars he's running is run out of BCI's shop, the shop I was running out of, and so I wasn't going to be able to run a full schedule on a midget, unfortunately, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep running full schedule, and so since we weren't able to run a full schedule there, it kind of meant we were out the door and on to the next team, and luckily the opportunity kind of opened up, and we got in communication with Keith and Pete, and kind of put a deal together, and here we are.
Tell us about Keith and Pete and this Toyota Power that you're running.
They're obviously one of the most prestigious teams in all of open wheel racing, and they are. I don't know much about them. Obviously, his first race was this weekend in Wichita Falls, Texas. So I'm still, getting used to everybody and learning about the team and their background and the cars. Of course, it's a lot different than what I'm used to running. So, but yeah, this weekend we ran third both nights, and they got me really, really comfortable. It's really it's a great feeling knowing how comfortable I got and how quickly it all kind of happened. It just tells you how good Keith and Pete now and all those guys are getting the cars ready, getting me comfortable in the seat, getting the car set up right so I can run consistent laps and learn as much as I can while I'm out there. So it should be a fun season. I'm really looking forward to it.
Now tell us, how do you attract like a Clausen or something like that to recognize you? Do you go for interviews? Do you hire agents, or do you talk to them in the pits? Tell us about how you managed to meet Clausen and how he opened the door for you.
Yeah, it can be done in multiple ways. For example, Christopher Bell was spotted by Keith and Pete. They're watching him run wing sprint cars and other midgets and stuff like that, and they kind of picked him out. So you can be kind of scouted in a way, but then you can also go to the team. That's what we did. We went to Tim Clausen, Brian's dad, and we exchanged emails with him, put together a test date here in Putnamville, just a local track, quarter mile, and put a test together. And they kind of were talking, saying, yeah, well, we could put something together. And so a few weeks later, we had a schedule put together for the following season, and that's kind of where it all started.
Were you nervous in the testing? Did you bring a different approach? Did you have a moment where you kind of calmed yourself down and just said, it's either going to work or it's not, no pressure? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was definitely nerve-wracking for sure, just because it is a big step. It's, a lot more power than what I was used to. It's a bigger car, feels different. I'm not, you don't feel comfortable. So it's obviously it puts a lot of pressure on a young guy like I was, and to do well because, Brian was there and Tim was there and Big Al and my dad and you didn't want to disappoint anybody. And so right. I ran a first session and was rolling around real kind of conservative. Started opening it up towards the end of the second session, and I don't know if you've ever seen Putnamville, but it's just a high banked track without any berm or without a wall. And in turn 2, I flipped over the banking and slid down into the catch fence. So that was definitely a humbling experience for sure. But yeah, it was. There's a lot of pressure on, and that definitely did.
Technical difficulties showed up pretty quick for you, huh?
Yeah, it was a little kind of embarrassing, I guess you could say. But right. They were able to just pair it with it. I only bent a right rear wheel and a Nerf bar, so they got it strapped back on and went back out and finished off. But by the end of the day, I got pretty comfortable, so it was much better.
How quick do you recover mentally after something like that? Being that, the pressure kind of led all that to happen, do you take a step back? Do you breathe? I mean, how did you approach it knowing that you had already made a mistake? Were you still pretty confident that you had something to show?
Yeah, I think so. It definitely kind of set me back a little bit. Just kind of calm down, trying to talk to myself and, get my breathing under control. And, we're not out here trying to set records, just trying to make good, consistent laps. And that's something I had to get through my head, and it's still something I use today. You can get rattled really easy racing out there. Someone, gives you a right rear, or you throw a slide job and they wheel slap you, or something happens on the racetrack, and you can't lose your head. You got to stay focused, and you got to stay mentally tough to keep running clean laps, keep being consistent, and not overdriving the car. So it's definitely something that I had to figure out as I started racing a little more serious. So and it's still something I use today.
What part of the country are you from?
Indiana.
Indiana, okay.
Tell us northwest Indy.
Northwest Indy, okay. So your family wasn't from racing. I'm sure you had like a little garage or something maybe in the back where it all started from. Tell us about how you realized that this was you were really involved into your actual dream when you looked around and seen the shops and all the material that had accumulated since you had first started. Tell us about that growth area where you realized that this was getting pretty serious.
Yeah. And like I was saying, the first few years, it was just a kind of a hobby thing. You go to Kokomo Speedway and you watch the Chili Bowl and all those guys running out there, Brian, obviously, the Swindells, Dave Darwin. You watch a lot of those guys that are going racetrack to racetrack, making a living doing this, and you're like, man, that'd be really cool to do that someday. And then once I got into a midget and first year, obviously spent a lot of time learning and kind of set me back and realized how good those guys really were. I was out there running what I thought were good laps, and I was getting my doors blown off by these guys, and really kind of had to humble me down. But towards the end of last year, we were running consistent top fives almost every night, battling with the guys up front, running for race wins and championships and stuff. So that's when it kind of started to set in. My goal is to just keep racing. It's definitely it's a different sport than others, I guess you could say, because one day you can be in the ride and the other day you can be out or you can get injured. So, my goal is definitely to keep racing for a living. But to answer your question, probably in the last year is when it kind of started kicking in, thinking maybe I could actually do this for a living.
You mentioned goals. You mentioned that a couple of times. What is, in your mind, the growth and the direction that you need to go in this year, and when do you plan to maybe make the next step into a bigger series or a bigger car?
Yeah, it's definitely, every time I hit the racetrack, my dad always harps on me, focus on tonight, focus on this race. You can always be looking on to, NASCAR, War Outlaws, all that stuff, and you got to stay focused on the step in front of you. But definitely kind of keep your options open, trying to be optimistic on what the career could one day be. So it's something you kind of think about and dream about, but you got to stay focused on what you're doing right now.
So you're more on a day-to-day goal basis with a dream.
Yeah, one day maybe kind of thing.
Right. Consistency. That's a very important part of the game, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Spencer, tell us about your this was a question coming in from somebody. Tell us your favorite trophy you've ever won.
Favorite trophy? Well, I'm still new, so I don't have a whole lot, I guess you could say, but probably the Rookie of the Year Chili Bowl. This past year I received it for my first year at Chili Bowl. That was definitely a memorable year. Locked in, first time at the Chili Bowl on my prelim night, finished third to Kyle Larson and Brad Boyette. And that was definitely one of my biggest nights for sure. It was my biggest night, actually. It's probably my biggest trophy and greatest memory so far. So I'm hoping by the end of this year I can stack up a few more big ones. But for right now, that's probably my favorite.
Let's talk about the car real quick. Tell us about the control of it and how you judge whether or not you have a good car or something that needs to be worked on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely still, especially with this new team, Keith Kuhn's, the cars are different, the motors are different. So getting comfortable with that, but you're always trying to feel the car when you get out there before the race even starts. You'll see guys run around and buzz their tires and kind of run a corner hard or a couple corners and try to hot lap it before you get going because you can feel the car and you can make adjustments throughout the race. So definitely learning the feel of the car. It's something that I'm still not very good at. Brian Clausen is one of the best at it. He'll go out there and before the race even starts, we'll get the whole thing dialed in and it'll be perfect. So it's something that takes a long time to get the feel. You get comfortable in the car, start focusing on more than just you out there racing, more of what the track's doing, what are other guys doing, what are the best lines, and where can I make my car better. So it's something that you just got to take a lot of time, and it takes a lot of experience that I still don't even have. So it's something you just got to keep working on.
Tell us your favorite thing about promoting for your sponsor.
My favorite thing about promoting?
Yes, sir. For your sponsor, when you're advertising for the names on the side of your car, what's one of the favorite things that you like to do? Signing autographs or videos, or what makes you feel like you're a successful race car driver? You've got fans. When do you know that you have that?
It's something you kind of notice. You start winning racing, you start doing well, and people start paying attention a little bit more. It's kind of cool when my mom videotapes all the races, and it's kind of cool. She stands up in the top, and you can see the people down below when you're out there throwing slide jobs on someone's cheering for you. It's like, wow, it's a great feeling knowing people are supporting you, and after the races they come down and talk. But it's kind of a cool feeling when you can just sit there and talk to somebody that wants to talk to you and ask you questions about yourself, and it kind of feels good, and it's a little bit of a motivator because you're out there doing it for the people in the stands, and they're the ones that are allowing you to go race to race because they're the one paying entry into the stands and keeping the tracks open and keeping the promoters happy. So it's I'd say that's probably one of it, just interacting with the fans and talking to them, asking questions and getting pictures and hanging out with them and all that stuff. That's probably one of the best.
That's great. That's awesome. Tell us about your schedule this year, and then we'll close up.
Schedule this year, we'll be running the full USAC is our main priority, full USAC schedule. So we'll be going out to Pennsylvania, Kansas, California for Turkey Night. That are changing it up, going to Ventura this year. So I'm really excited going there. But also when we're not running USAC, we'll be running every PowerA race we can. With Keith Kuhn's this year, there's 3 new drivers, me, Carson Macedo, and Holly Shelton. And so we're all just trying to get as much seat time as possible. So those PowerA races will really help us out. So we'll be running both USAC and most of the PowerA races. So I think we're going to be running close to 55, 60 races. So it'll be a full schedule. But then on top of that, I'm really trying to get in a wing car is my goal for the end of the season. And so we've been talking to a couple owners, trying to get some schedules put together with them. So hopefully we can stack on maybe 10, 15 more wing sprint car races on top of those midget events.
Okay, well, tell us about the sponsors on the side of your car and who's helping you get your travel costs as you take the road.
Yeah, definitely. It's Toyota Racing with Keith Kunz Motorsports. They are huge in what we do now, and they obviously have seen them bring on guys like Rico Abreu, Christopher Bell, getting them into the truck series and getting them on down the road. So they do a lot for Keith and Pete and all of them, getting these guys. Tanner Thorson, my teammate, they're taking them to media training and getting them all geared up and ready to take them to North Carolina. And so they have a big involvement with the team, and they really help us get down the road. Priority Aviation, Richard and Jennifer Marshall, they're from Texas, and Richard's in the oil industry, and they've got a company where they use private planes. And they're great people. They're really giving. They go to a lot of the races. They're out in Vegas right now hanging out with Jason Johnson, who they sponsor in the full War Outlaw schedule. So they're great people. They really help us out. My family, we're fortunate enough to be able to do what we love and travel and race. So definitely with my dad and mom and all their support, they really help us get down the road.
And just to close things out, man, who got your first autograph?
That's a good question. My dad remembers it better than I do. I remember it was at a microsprint race in the local track in Miami County Speedway, northern Indiana, Peru, and it was a little kid. I just won the open class A main, and a little kid came down and wanted to sit in my car, and then he asked me for my autograph. And at that point, I didn't even know how to write my name in cursive, I don't think. So it was kind of funny and little. It was kind of cool, but I think that was my first one.
Spencer, before we leave, tell us where we can find you on social media and websites. Man.
Yeah, I'm on basically all social media. Facebook, I've got a personal page and a racing page, Spencer Basin Racing. We're starting to get that up and going. I'm on Twitter at Spencer Basin. I'm on Instagram. It's kind of more of a personal account, but it's at Spencer Basin also. You can go on my website, spencerbasin.com. We've got photos, videos, my full schedule. There's a contact link. You can get on there and message me, and I'll usually try to get back as soon as I can. And if you ever need to get a hold of me or anything, I'm on Facebook. Obviously, you can message me on there too. So I'm on basically everything. So yeah, most of my Twitter handles and Instagram handles are at Spencer Basin. So feel free to contact me.
All right. Well, remember yellowcautionflag.com. That is our show sponsor. They do a lot of media working off in the dirt track business, so make sure you look them up. And Spencer, it was great interviewing you, man. 17-year-old talent, sounds like a good head on his shoulders and a good opportunity right now with a pretty good team, right?
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And we'll be glad to talk to you again soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Well, Jason, man, I tell you what, that was a good interview there, sir.
Oh, yes.
All right. Looks like Damien says he's in. Is he on the line there?
I don't know. I have your next guest. That's who I know I do have.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll check on Damien. And, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. We're going to bring in the winner of the third annual Ice Cracker Sprint Car Challenge doubleheader night one. This year was won by the 23's Seth Bergman. Seth, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing real well, sir. So tell us, was this your first trip down to Hattiesburg Speedway?
Yeah, it's actually my first time there to Hattiesburg, and really to that area in general. I've been down south a little ways in southern Texas, and went down to Florida and been down there, but I've never really been to South Mississippi or even Alabama there where we were last night.
Well, I guess that's something that we can start out with. Tell us about the trip and what kind of set you out the most.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. I'm traveling down the road right now.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I'll get a little bit closer to the mic here. Tell us about what when this was your first experience down here. What kind of set your mind out the most besides the wind? What did you enjoy the racing surfaces? Did you feel comfortable down in the area?
Yeah, I mean, it was just great to strap in a sprint car and get to work. It's going to be a long year for us as a sprint car team. We got a lot of races scheduled, and going to be pursuing a national championship. And we're trying to get to work early in the season and find some speed, get some wins. And so far, we've been able to do both. We've picked up where we left off from last year, and I feel like we're building on that and gaining more speed, figuring new things out. Been fortunate enough to pick up a couple wins here recently, and just happy about that. Going to Hattiesburg Speedway, never been there before, and it was interesting. It's definitely interesting. I don't know if I've ever been to a scene like they offered there at Hattiesburg, that's for sure. The racetrack was little and high banked, and it actually, they did a good job for that being the SOS ASCS region's first outing. I feel like they did a great job by putting the race on there, and it was enjoyable. We picked up the win, like you were saying, and moved along to Saturday at Deep South Speedway.
Now, tell us about the adventure from Washington State to where you are now, and how'd you get your start?
Man, that's a long story. That adventure from Washington to here started, quite a long time ago, some years ago. It started out just picked up, left Washington, and decided I was going to try to be a race car driver in the sprint car scene, and been going at it ever since. That's how I ended up down there in Hattiesburg on Friday, just chasing these races and trying to make a profession out of this the last 6 years, and that's why I'm where I'm at today, and out here trying to win races, make a name for myself and my family.
When did you know that you were addicted to the full throttle? I mean, it takes a special man to drive a sprint car, a special person. Tell us when you knew in the moment this is what you were destined to do.
I grew up around racing my entire life, and I went, as a kid, to the races watching my dad. That kind of instills it in you at a young age, and then you get old enough and kind of get your own train of thoughts going on and figure out what you want to do. And I was little and knew I wanted to be a race car driver. When I got old enough, I was fortunate enough my parents let me. And I would say the first time I really grabbed a hold of me was, I went to the sprint car races. I can remember when I was young and went with my dad and his friends, and I saw sprint cars go around for the first time, and it shocked me. It's pretty amazing to see them go around the track. And to be honest with you, I never thought I'd have the courage to get in and race these things as hard as I do. And got into mini sprints and raced those, and the first time I ever got into a big car, it was everything I'd ever thought it would be. I'd never even fired up or drove a V8 before, and I sat in a sprint car for the first time and fired that thing up and got on the gas. And I think any sprint car driver can tell you that it's kind of unexplainable. It does something to you, and for me, it really grabbed a hold of me. And from that point on, the competition side of you grows, and I'm where I'm at today because I was very competitive, and that's just grown and grown and grown. And I do it for a living now, so it's changed a little bit. It's more business-minded, but I think every time I fire a sprint car off, still here doing it today.
Tell us about the beginning. Who gave you your first start?
My parents. They're still the reason that I'm able to do this today. Like I said, I grew up watching my dad race. Always been in a racing family, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And when I got old enough, I was fortunate enough they were there to give me the opportunity, and they've been my number one supporter still. I'm thousands of miles away from them, but every night I race, every night of the week, I'm on the phone with them and always relaying stuff off my dad. If it wasn't for them, I really wouldn't be ever even gotten a start in this. And most certainly wouldn't be where I'm at today.
How many career wins do you have, Seth?
That's a good question. I think in big cars I'm probably close to 50, 60 or so by now. I'm not real good at keeping track of all that stuff. I'm kind of more the type that sets goals and moves towards those numbers, and I kind of get lost in all that along the way. So that's a good question.
Nothing wrong with that.
If I were to just guess, it'd be around 50 or so.
Cool. Where did you turn your first laps in a sprint car?
It'd be at Speedway. That was actually where I saw my first sprint car race, and that was where I turned the first laps sprint car. I grew up racing at a mini sprint track called Speedway, not far from there. I got in a big sprint car and spent my first year or two making laps around Speedway.
Now, Casey Kane's from Washington State. Have y'all had a relationship being from the same state and pretty successful?
Yeah, he's from the same state, and obviously had a lot of success on the NASCAR level. But other than us being from the same state, that's about where it ends with him and I. He raced sprint cars at a young age, and I started racing sprint cars at a young age, and we both shared the number 23. And that's really where it ends between Casey and I. He's had a lot of success in his career, and I'm just out here trying to make a career path.
Tell us about the number 23. Is that a special number?
Yeah, it is actually. It's my dad carried the number 2 when he raced, and I was going to be number 2, and my sister was number 3, and my sister passed away, and I put the 2 and the 3 together, and it's been my number ever since.
That's cool. On our logo, on our T-shirts, and even on our yellow caution flag promotional stuff, we have a late model with the numbers 1, 2, 3, and it has a special meaning for us as well. And that's it's always a lot of times. Well, I say a lot of times there's true meaning behind the number that a driver races.
Yeah, and for me especially, I grew up. My dad was always number 2, and I always envisioned me being that number and carrying his footsteps. And with the passing of my sister, she was always 3, and it was just kind of a no-brainer to put them together. And that's the number that's been flying on my race cars ever since.
We have a question from the co-hosts who can't call in. There's something wrong with his line. He said, compare local racing in Washington to the competition you face traveling.
It's tough anywhere you go anymore. I mean, there's a good group of racers in Washington, and I feel like anywhere you go, there's a group of guys that are competitive and passionate about winning. So I wouldn't say any one region of the country is any tougher than the other. I mean, anytime you show up to a dirt track, you're going to have guys you're going to have to compete to win with. And growing up in Washington, it definitely shaped me to the racer I am today because of the racetracks and the races that are out there. There's a lot of good guys that are just still out there racing locally, and I think you've seen quite a few guys lately coming from Washington, starting to travel more and starting to make a name for themselves, and as there are a lot of guys from the Midwest. So I don't think it's really any different anywhere you go. I think you run across guys that are passionate about winning, and that's where you find the difficulty levels rise.
All right. So I guess I'll lead this question. Tell us about the competition that you were racing with this weekend. It was a very stout field of drivers. Terry Gray, Morgan Turpin, the fastest girl on dirt, Shane Morgan, who's a local, Mike Miller. It was a pretty heavy stout of drivers.
Yeah, it's tough, all those guys that you just named, a lot of them have careers that they can be proud of already, and a lot of them are aspiring to make careers for themselves. But I can tell you one thing, myself as an individual, I show up thinking and pursuing the path, and I'm going to be the best every night I show up. And it's against this stuff. I race myself and my race team every night we get to the racetrack, and I think that's where you find speed, and that's how you're going to do great things in the sport. And those guys are definitely tough competitors, and they took one away from me Saturday night with Brian Bell. He was fast, and Derek beat us also, and that just goes back to what we were just talking about with there being tough sprint cars anywhere you go in the country. And one thing about me is I always show up and race myself, and ever since I've learned to do that, you find a lot of speed and you start winning races.
That's your drive. What keeps you motivated in a race car, Seth?
Just being competitive, winning races. I'm just obsessed with it. Really, it's the easiest way you can say it. Is winning. It's not fun for me. It's not enjoyable when I'm at the racetrack and I'm not winning. It's something that's grown on me, and it can be a bit of a curse and a blessing at the same time. It's tough when you don't win. You're very, very tough on yourself. I know I am. And the thing about racing is you don't always get to win, so you got to learn how to deal with the lows and appreciate the highs. But that's one thing we do is push for wins. That's what we pride ourselves on, and that's where we want to be every night.
Jason, Jason, our host, says that we're running out of time here. Tell us about your sponsors and who's got your back and what your schedule looks like this year.
Of course, like I said a few times, my parents, without them, it's not even a thought of a possibility for me. Four-door electric, and without them and that company there, that's not possible. And Dennis Marshala from Oilfield Equipment Manufacturing has been very key to what I've done out here in the Midwest. And he's a huge partner of ours. And Scott Baylor Racing Engines, he builds all my engines. Eagle Chassis, a fellow named Tim Young owns the Young Tool Company. He's been a great help the last couple of years. And Speedy's Automotive, but without them, it's very tough for me. And as far as my schedule this year, we're racing ASCS, the Lucas Oil National Tour, and I'm committed to those. And anything outside of that, you might see me like you guys did down south this week.
Awesome. Now, tell us one more thing. This is the fan question. What was the coolest trophy you ever won?
Right off the top of my head, it'd be the Rock and Roll 50. I've been able to win that race twice, and they give a pretty cool electric guitar away for the trophy, and that it definitely stands out to me as probably the coolest trophy I've ever picked up.
All right. Well, Seth, do you have a nickname, man? The Bergman. I mean, come on, you were you were flying Friday night, and congratulations on your win.
All right, man. I appreciate it. That's I've never really acquired a nickname along the way, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but just no nickname, and kind of the way it remains.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to give you one next time you show up. If you show up in these parts of racing, we're having a little trouble here, real quick, getting Brian Bell on. He says, Jason, he's saying every time he tries to call, it just hangs up and never rings. So maybe we need to clear the line there. It's been great having you on, Seth, and really I would love to get more in depth of the first branch out when you left the state of Washington. I think we left something on the table there that could really be priceless for our fans to get in touch with you.
Yeah, I'm available anytime. Just you want to know, just give me a call and ask, and I'll be here.
Okay. Now tell us where we can find you on social media and stuff like that.
It's just Facebook is just Seth Bergman. It's my personal page. I have a racing page as well as Seth Bergman Racing, and then Seth Bergman Racing on Twitter, and I have an Instagram as well. It's more of a personal thing, but just Seth Bergman. It's pretty simple. Just my name, basically, on all the media outlets.
I guess one last thing. Are you superstitious? Do you do anything special since you love to win so much?
Do I do anything special?
Yeah, is there any superstitious side of you? We're having problems with Bell right now, and so I mean, I think that's a great question right there. Are you superstitious? I mean, do Do you have certain ways that you do things to prepare yourself? I mean, you have that special drive, you're passionate about winning, so a lot of times those guys are superstitious.
I think, man, I don't know. I guess I'm just superstitious about making sure I do everything I can before I get to the racetrack to make sure I'm prepared. I don't have any weird quirks or anything about putting the same pair of undies on or putting my left sock on first or anything like that. I just make sure during the week that I'm, we take care of everything we need to take care of, and I'm rested, and I spend a lot of time in the gym, and I try to eat right. Just I make sure my head is on straight, and I'm ready to do the job when it comes to race time.
All right. Well, I'm not going to keep you any longer, Seth, and I know that we'll have a second interview here. We're going to keep our eye on you as you travel through the series there. Congratulations on your win, and welcome to the Deep South, man.
Well, I appreciate you guys for giving me your time and let me be a part of your show. It was a pleasure.
Thank you again, sir.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Well, guys, I tell you what, that was an interview, and boy, I tell you, I like the rhythm of the show tonight. We kind of started out, the whole update stuff, and it just does kind of drag on, and it's kind of hard to make that exciting. But once you get these drivers on and you start picking their brains, I tell you what, it's really cool to sit in the seat that I sit in, and I have to take in what these drivers are saying and come up with. Right, exactly. Almost getting them to take a lap through a sprint car. These guys are living interesting lives, and it's something. Okay, he's calling in from a 5347, Jason, 5347. So we're still going to get this interview. But guys, like I said, these are very interesting lifestyles that these guys live, and we hope it's entertaining to you. Just give us some feedback, and we'll get Brian Bell in here as soon as as Jason gives us the go-ahead there.
All right, he's in the studio.
Man, that worked out perfect, didn't it? I tell you what, this is turning into a great show here. Brian Bell, how you doing, sir?
Doing pretty good.
All right. Now you're from Tennessee, right? You're kind of familiar with the guys that you've raced with around here. Tell us about who Brian Bell is.
Well, me and my dad, we own a business called FSR Racing Products. We build aluminum radiators. My dad he started racing here in West Memphis back in 1974, back what they called B cars, which are kind of like non-wing sprint cars. And so he grew up in an era, in a popular area racing sprint cars with a lot of big names. And so I'm kind of following his footsteps. And, it's just me and him and another friend of ours, and we just go racing, kind of stick to this area, kind of a local team. But, we just do it just for fun. We just enjoy it. It's what we love to do.
Now, you were part of the doubleheader this weekend. Tell us about your win on Saturday night. What did you feel like you had a good car? Tell us a little bit about Saturday night and what led up to your victory.
Yeah, we did. We really felt good about the car. It was one of those nights we didn't make a lot of changes to it, and in my experience, that's been the nights that you're good when you don't come in and have to make a lot of changes. But we've had a long relationship with Maxim Chassis and always had a lot of success with them, and so we always feel real confident in our race cars. But it was a good-sized racetrack, real high bank. You really kind of had to get your elbows up, and I've always considered myself a little bit of a gasser, so that was kind of suited me right off the bat. And just we were able to pass some cars in the heat race, get some good points, and then we got that fortunate redraw, got that number one spot, put us on the pole, and I knew right then that it was just up to me. It was up to me to win or lose the race, and I just needed to go out there and make some good laps, hit my marks, be patient in lap traffic, but we still definitely had to go.
All right, tell us about the difference in the two nights, the track styles.
Yeah, a lot of difference there. They were both kind of momentum racetracks, but Friday night at Hattiesburg, track I really do enjoy. It's nice and round. It's got some decent banking, a lot of momentum, but much smaller of a racetrack. It's probably not much bigger than a quarter of a mile around. So then to go to Saturday night was a big change. Loxley was a 4/10 mile, very hammered down, wide open, real high speed, long straightaways, high banking. So driving style is very different in a wing sprint car when you go from a smaller, shorter track where, you're kind of hustling the car but still trying to be smooth. But you get on those really big racetracks and you have to keep the car really straight. And you just have to drive it very different. So a lot of difference between Friday and Saturday.
How long have you been in the 360 series, Brian?
I've been off and on. I started racing in 2003, so I guess I'm 13 years deep at this point. I've actually haven't driven a 360 in 2 years now. The last 2 years, me and my dad weren't able to race, and so I went and helped another guy as a crew chief and kind of helped him and, kind of got to see racing from the other side. And so, I think that helped me a lot to get to stand on the sidelines and watch the cars and see how they react to changes. And so far, I think that's I've been able to apply that to what we've done here on our first weekend and had some pretty good success. So to come back out of a little break there for a couple of years and get a win against some good guys, that was it's really encouraging.
Yeah, right. And I didn't mean to interrupt, but you opened the door there for a great question, because so many times you learn so much from that acceptance to take the step back, to release something from you, to make a different goal this time and drop things that weren't necessary. Tell us about that step back and now, I mean, my gosh, you come back after 2 years, you're a winner, man.
Yeah, it was really, really crazy to me, but I went and worked for the same guy for 2 years, Jared Roller. He was a really good friend of mine, and we were able to go and do some racing. But it changes your perspective when you can work on the car and you can stand on the sidelines and you can see the people that are, the car that you're working on and when it's successful and when it's not and what its attitude is and what the car is doing and where the driver is putting it on the racetrack and how he's attacking a corner. And when you can stand on the sidelines and see it, you can, for me, I was able to absorb a lot of information. And an example of that was Saturday night, when I was out front, I felt like I was making some good laps, but I was, my corner exits were a little bit open and I was getting out. I just didn't feel good about what I was doing. And so I knew I needed to open my entries up because I needed to keep the car tight on exit. And I felt like that was something that I had learned from watching for the last 2 years. I knew that, keeping the car straight and keeping it tight on exit was something that I needed to be doing. So that's just like a little small example, there of maybe something that I've picked up over the last couple of years.
So you kind of mimicked it from the view that you had, from the outside view.
Absolutely, and which Derek Hagar ran second Saturday night, and I've, in the last 2 years watched him win a lot of races. And so, that would just be a perfect example of just watching Derek, watching anything and everything that I could and just trying to absorb as much information as I could about car and setup changes and driving styles and when to get up on the wheel and drive the car hard and when to try to be smooth and make good laps. It was, that's what I think separates, a lot of good drivers from a lot of, people that have success and people that struggle to find it sometimes is knowing when to get up on the wheel and drive hard and when you need to calm down and be smooth. Damian
Bean wants to know, tell us about your driving style. What kind of driving style do you carry?
Yeah, no, I've always kind of considered myself a gasser. I love to run the top. I love it when there's a big cushion. I do like a slick racetrack. But if it's black slick and there's a foot-tall curb on the top of it, I'm going to be ready to go, and so I'm not the type to want to putt around the tires and, play that patience game on the bottom. I've always been somebody that was going to put a big left rear on it. We were going to lay the car back, put the wing in the trunk and let her eat. So, which Saturday night suited me for that. The track was nice and fast and it had a lot of grip to it. So I was able to get up on the wheel and really hustle the race car a little bit while still trying to be smooth.
Now, racing's had some troubling times with the economy and all, and you've been around for enough years to see what some people call the wave, where certain classes grow and then they kind of spawn off. Tell us about this growth period right now. 28 and 27 cars showed up between the two racetracks in a sprint car field. Is that impressive?
Yes, I was very shocked Friday night that they were able to pull the cars down there, and it wasn't, and even that wasn't a very central location. We were in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and then Loxley, which is basically just outside of Mobile, Alabama, so it was a pretty good tow for a lot of people. And I think the time of the year, played a little bit in it. The week before they had another race over in Mississippi. So I think some people were, kind of already in the area, and it was nice and convenient. And I think that that's important for promoters, when they put on races, to try to work together and not, stack races on top of each other. I think in this day and age, like you said, sprint cars have seen their ups and downs, and, there's people that are struggling for car count right now. And I really think it's important for people to try to work together and, try to get all the cars at the same place to get these car counts up where people can come and see a really good race.
So you would basically commit yourself to the same weekend next year?
Oh, absolutely. Especially with the two tracks that we went to, some people, didn't think the track conditions were awesome, but, it is what it is. And sometimes they're more favorable, to certain people, and sometimes they're not. And, but yeah, I liked both of the tracks that we went to, and I would be more than happy to go back anytime.
Tell us about how you knew when you had the car, and were you expecting a late caution? What could have made everything go the other way?
Yeah, I knew that. Well, sometimes when you fire right out of the gate and your car is really good at the beginning of the race, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking because, you don't know how the track is going to change or if it's going to go away from you. And so I knew right out of the gate my car was really strong, and so I was very comfortable early on. The car was very easy to drive. It had a lot of grip, and I knew that I was tough right off the bat. But I was very concerned about how the track may have changed during the race. We didn't tighten up a lot for the feature. There still seemed to be a lot of grip around the bottom, which is where I knew I kind of wanted to be. And I know that, the guys that were behind me, I knew Derek was starting right behind me. I knew Seth Bergman was back there. There's several other guys that, were strong and win races that were going to be coming to the front. And if the track kind of went away from me and got slick, I knew that I was going to need to try to make something happen. So the whole time the race was going on, I was very much trying to pay attention to how the track was progressing and if it was starting to give up and if there were any adjustments that I needed to make, because later in the race, if the track got dry, I knew that those guys would be ready for it.
Are you a fan of the redraw, or did it just fall in your favor?
Today I'm a big fan of the redraw, but next week, maybe not so much. I do think that it shakes it up. In certain situations, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to sit here and say that it didn't play in our favor last night. It very much did. I was able to draw that lucky number one. I'm not sure that I would have won that race drawing an 8. There were some guys that were able to pass some cars, but, we had that top 4, 5, 6 cars right there last night, and they were all fairly even. We were all kind of got our little space between us, and we were just I was able to hold everybody off and just stay up there and not make any mistakes. So, overall, I think that I don't think there's a perfect way to do it. I think there's going to be, no matter how you do it, sometimes it's going to favor certain people. Sometimes it's not going to fall in your favor. So I'm okay with it. Of course, right now, it's sounding pretty good to me, and next week it may not fall in my favor, and, I may not have as much nice things to say about it, but, I just think luck is going to always play.
It's an open-end question. We just always like to hear the feedback on that. To take things to a different step before we go into our closing, Damian Bean has another question. He's normally my co-host, but he had technical problems with the phone.
Sure.
He says, take us for a lap in a sprint car from the seat. What's it feel like in the G-force? How physically demanding is it, especially on a 4/10 of a mile racetrack?
Yeah, it is, and I've always tried to.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
it is, and you have to. I've always tried to explain it to people, and anybody that's ever driven one says you just have to sit in it to experience it. But the biggest thing that I always try to tell people is that sometimes your brain is telling you something very different than the rest of your body needs to be doing. You know, the cars are so capable when you get to the end of the straightaways, especially on those like last night, you know, big 4/10 mile, well over 100 miles an hour, and then you have to come up and make basically a U-turn, you know, and your mind is telling you that this is not possible, you know, to make this car is not going to make this turn, and you have to be confident in the car, and you just have to go a little bit it takes you out of your comfort zone. And you know, last night there was a little bit of a hole getting into one, which was something I had to work around. And yeah, those G-forces were definitely there, especially when the track gets a little bit wavy and it kind of, you know, you kind of hop a little bit as you're going through it. It'll try to take your breath away from you. So on top of driving, on top of car setup, on top of all these other things, you definitely have to keep yourself in pretty decent shape. You have to focus on breathing, you know, and, you know, keeping yourself from getting winded, you know, trying to pace yourself a little bit and not overdo it. But it's an experience that's not like any other driving a car. And especially, you know, I've driven wing and non-wing, and those wing cars, they're very, very capable and beyond what most people, you know, are comfortable with. And I think that's what draws everybody to them, is that it forces you to get out of your comfort zone sometimes.
Our fan question this week is a very good one. What is the coolest trophy you've ever won?
Ooh. Well, you know, these days we don't get a lot of trophies. I guess I would just have to say the big check. You know, we won a race with ASCS down in Chatham, Louisiana, and I got the giant check. And that kind of felt, you know, you see those all the time on, you know, Knoxville and the King's Roll and things like that, and they get the giant check and they get their name on it and everything. And I got one of those down in Louisiana with Gulf South a few years ago, and that was really cool. That made me feel, you know, like I was part of an elite group of people that had giant checks, something I could hang on the wall. So that was definitely the coolest one to me.
All right. Now, Brian, this is the side of the show where we find out where can locate you at, what social media, websites, and stuff like that, and then we'll close out.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter at fsrproducts.com. That's our company, but we, you know, all of our race team runs through there. We keep up with a lot of people that we, you know, are affiliated with through that. And, you know, it's just a real great central location to kind of see a lot of what's going on with our race team and our company. We're all one team there, so it all kind of fuses together. So you can follow us there. I have a YouTube channel. You can go and search for Brian Bell. And I have some in-car camera from a few years ago, which is kind of fun to watch. I'm going to get that going here before long. Kind of wanted to get back in the saddle. I wasn't expecting to get a win right off the bat. So that's not bad. I back up and running. But, yeah, you can follow us there.
Before we let you go, I like this question right here. What was your most memorable moment since you've been involved in racing? What's that one thing that stands up with your dad or with a win? What was that one moment that you were proud? Yeah, that would have been my first win. We were in Atwood, Tennessee, and it was my first, I would say, what I would call a big win. I had won a couple of local shows, but this was a USCS show up in Atwood, Tennessee, and it was just one of those nights that we were just on. And I mean, and we won by a real sizable margin. And it just, you know, I had a lot of friends and family that were there. And, you know, it was just it's always that first one where the competition was there, you know, and I really felt like I had beat some really good guys, and I had all my friends and family there, and everybody was really excited. And that right there has always stuck with me. All right. Now to close out, tell us about your sponsors and what your schedule is going to be this year. Yeah, we don't have an exact schedule. We're not following a particular series. I'm really excited about the new affiliation with ASCS and the Southern Outlaw series. You know, Mike Miller's done a lot to try to bring sprint car racing to this part of the country, and I'm really excited about trying to support him and get that going. We're from the West Tennessee area, right outside of Memphis, so you know, we travel up into Missouri, you know, a lot of races in Mississippi.
Arkansas. We kind of try to stay in this area. So we'll go up to Wheatland when ASCS National Tour is there. That's a place we like to go. And so, I just want to thank, FSR Products. That's our company. They do a lot for us to be able to go do this. And, Maxim chassis, Shark Racing engines, Vortex wings, those were all important parts of winning a race. There's all that you've got going on, all the parts you put on the car. King Racing Products, Blake Robertson's a good friend of mine, and he helps us a lot. Derek Hagar actually builds our shocks, and he ran second last night. So, we're a tight group, and we all try to take care of each other. We build his radiators, he builds our shocks, and so we together are able to brew a lot of success.
All right, last question here. And this is off the charts. What is the coolest thing about being a race car driver?
I think the biggest appeal to me is just the competition. I think that sprint car drivers or race car drivers in general are just
stressing yourself and being like pulled to the limit. Something you dig?
Yeah, I would say just always being able to try to push the limits and always try to outdo yourself. And the challenge in racing is almost unachievable. You're always chasing something that you're never really going to catch, and so you just can't win every single race, and you just can't, you're just always trying to get better. It's a never-ending challenge, and just a level of competition. And then for me, you take the adrenaline and the speed of sprint cars and add that competitive element to it, and the combination is just you just can't beat it. There's just nothing that you can do in life that's going to be the same as racing a sprint car on dirt.
Awesome interview, Brian Bell. I think they're going to start the Larry King of dirt. You guys made this so easy for me tonight. I appreciate your time, and sorry for the late notice. I know it seemed like it was thrown together. I've got my hands on a lot of urns and a lot of fires, and so this was kind of, it was the idea of the show, but we didn't know who it was going to be until it played itself out. So kind of the fans and all were wondering what was going on. Hopefully we got plenty of listeners tonight because we got plenty of good material. You guys were great, and I hope to have you on again very soon, Brian Bell. Are you coming back down to the Deep South or Hattiesburg Speedway anytime soon there, bud?
Yeah, as soon as they have another race, I know that ASCS, the Southern Outlaws, had a race in Jackson here in about a month, 2-day show, Jackson, Mississippi. So we're coming down for that. And then as soon as they have another race at Hattiesburg, I'll be back. I really do enjoy that racetrack.
10-4. Well, hey, we appreciate you being on the show there. Make sure you check out yellowcautionflag.com. That's our show sponsor. Guys, that was a little bit over the dirt hour. But, man, you just can't let them go when it's so good. Wow, just a heck of a show. We backed it up from last week. We had Jimmy O, Bobby Pierce, Seth, Jason Feger. This week we've had two really big names and a growing name in the open wheel world. I tell you what, no telling what the show's going to be like next week. Jason, do we have any callers on the line? We can waste a couple of minutes here, bring some callers on the line real quick, let some people get some shout-outs. Duck Owens, I think, was listening in.
Yeah, we got somebody that is wanting to come on.
Just a couple of minutes now. If I say pull the plug, pull the plug.
Let me double check. I want to make sure. Yeah. Here, you got a caller in the studio.
All right, caller. This is the Dirt Talk Hour extended time. What you think about the show tonight, caller? Caller, you're on the air.
I don't think they wanted to talk to you.
Well, this ain't Paul Feinbaum, okay? Next. No, I'm just kidding, y'all. Would love it if you get to call in. They say I just need to be more expressive, and I'm afraid that sometimes my expressiveness comes off a little hard. So I always try to, play around the edges there. But, man, it kind of sucked not having Damien in the show tonight, but how do you think things went, Jason?
Yeah, you did fine. I have no complaints. It was very interesting. I sat here for the whole hour, and I don't even go to a lot of, local track racing. I've probably been to, that I can remember. Now, I grew up going to local tracks. I grew up going to Shady Bull and Killcare. There are two tracks in the Columbus area of Ohio, asphalt tracks. But I didn't really go any dirt tracks until a couple years ago down here in North Carolina, the Dublin Motor Speedway and Fayetteville Motor Speedway. I enjoyed myself. It just, I didn't know what I was missing, so I got to go out there. And then scheduling and kids and everything else has kept me from returning. But once the season kicks off down here, now that I have my Fridays and Saturdays free, I'm definitely going to find myself down in Dublin and Fayetteville Motor Speedway.
Hey, you let us know if we can help get you into those places. We've been able to connect 110 Nation Sports Radio and the Yellow Costume Flag affiliate, and it's been a dang awesome relationship that Jason and I have been able to build. And I tell you, I applied yourself to go to Talladega. Have you applied for your own press passes?
I'm going to. Since I'll have some more free time, so I'm definitely going to. This is one of the things I got to sit down tomorrow and do. I have weekends, and the weekends are very long, and I'm getting a lot of opportunity to do a lot of things because I have pretty much all my hours on the weekend, and so Monday I get to sit down and do everything that's got to be done, and those are definitely on top of my list.
Well, now tell us, we've had a few people inquiring about how to become a better part of this show. First of all, we've got to do something with this forum. Being the situation I was in tonight, I wasn't able to entertain both sides, and so we need somebody to really kind of transfer information as we do our interviews in the forum, and that may be an open possibility for some listeners who are hanging on there to be involved. It's definitely a way to get your foot in the door. But definitely we need some interaction in the forum. I think that the fans really got an intel look at sprint car racing, at open wheel racing. I think the level of the guests, I tell you what, it just shows how much racing has educated itself, because these guys, all of them interviewed like they were Michael Jordan. Racing has a very special talent right now, and I think that these guys know from the door you have to get the best side of them if you're going to put them in the spotlight.
Oh, I agree. Well, most definitely. We've been fortunate on the 110 Nation Sports Show to have a lot of young drivers as well come on the show, and one in particular, Dylan Martin. I have had the opportunity for the last 3 seasons to have him on the show. And going from the first interview, and here I prepped what I thought was enough questions to go 30 minutes with them, and I get one-word answers, and that's all I get. And so about 10, 15 minutes into the interview, I've done ran through all the questions because that's all he's given me, and I just have nothing else, and I'm trying to pull it. There's dead airspace, and I'm trying my hardest to pull it out. And over the 3 years, he's come on. And I would say Dylan comes on the show probably every 3-4 months. And when I first had him on the show and was pulling teeth to get any answers out of him, to where we are now, and I can ask a question and he can run with it for 5 minutes, and it's awesome to see him grow and develop. So it's really cool when you got those on that, repeat. Like I said, 110 Nation, we've been doing this for about 5 years, so we got a lot of repeating and over the years. And so it's really cool to have those that are kind of wowed by it when they come on, and like our guest tonight, and just like they nailed it, they got it. But it's also cool to be able to watch these young drivers kind of grow up as they go through their phases of their career, but do it through our show, and it's really cool to have that opportunity.
Tell us what the producer learned today.
You want to?
Tell us what the producer learned today. Did you learn anything?
I learned that I probably never would be able to turn laps in a sprint car.
There you go. I love it. See, that's entertaining right there. That is entertaining. We're going to sit here and geek going.
It takes a true talent to do what these guys and ladies do, and it really blows my mind. And what even amazes me more is you don't really think about it, because I'm a traditional. I watch NASCAR, and that's about it. And so I'm used to one type and what skill set you need for that. And, my opinions have kind of changed on some of the drivers, even in NASCAR this year, with that new downforce package they got and making racers actually have to be racers now. But I'm kind of, I've always just kind of pictured that's it. And then doing these shows for the last 5 years, and then getting to sit on Steve's show, and then getting to sit in on your guys' show, I get a better idea of how talented local drivers are, but how talented and how different, so much different each type of racing and each type of vehicle and what it takes and the adjustments you got to go from each phase of your life, and meaning by different cars that you're going to be in, and a lot of them are completely different.
Well, we provide that detail. We are so in-depth with these guys that we're digging this information straight out of them. It's awesome. I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better three guests. And who would have thought, Mr. Humble, the Nightmare, could have put off the interview that he did? I mean, it kind of started out slow, but once we got him jacked up, boy, it was like a crate motor. He just didn't need to wind down, huh?
Oh, it's amazing. And like I said, it's great to, when you see a lot of fans talk about racing right now, it's opportunities of sitting through shows. I sit through probably almost 25 hours of sports talk radio a week. And I get an opportunity to see a lot of this talent and hear about a lot of this talent and talk to them before a lot of these fans out there that go talking and bashing any kind of, different form of racing. I understand that, racing there for a while kind of went through a phase where there wasn't the talent. I think NASCAR was a prime example. It was like 2007 until recently. The Rookie of the Years are not even running no more. Like there just wasn't a lot coming through the farm system. I guess we'll put it that way. But because of all these different programs and different ways that these different series and different tracks are working together more and more to provide financially, making it able where all these talented drivers that we weren't getting back in the day because they just couldn't financially afford it. It's everybody's starting to work better, and you're starting to see all this talent. Like Daytona, we have 16 age drivers in the race. That tells you that the talent is coming and the changes are coming to make all these sports and all these different series better. And across from your Friday night all the way up to your Sunday and Sprint Cup, or the Sprint Cup series, you see it across the board, and it's amazing because we're seeing it as they're going. I've had drivers that, they're 14, 15 years old and Friday, Saturday, and I've had the opportunity year after year, and I've seen them go into, the next, the ARCA series and the K&N series, and even some of them into the Truck series and the Xfinity series. And it's cool to be able to see that and realize, we're getting to a point that all these different things, all these different programs, such as the Drive for Diversity program and everything that, is out there, we're really starting to be blessed with a lot of talented drivers, and it's amazing to be able to watch it as they all grow and know what this sport is, the future is looking for.
So you're basically behind the fact that we're going through a drive right now, moving forward in racing, even from popularity to financial well-being. Because somebody's got to foot the bill on all this, and the thing that I think is different now than and the reason for the success is there's been a notebook kind of written on what you have to go through to get to the level, and then once you kind of get there, it's like you can't win the casino if you don't play it. You know what I mean? And that seems to be kind of the. Go ahead.
Well, I know a lot of people listen to the show, and a lot of drivers are not going to agree with this, and I completely, I understand, and I don't even want to imagine what they spend on a weekly basis to get to the track. I know what I spend and have spent. I could have bought 2 or 3 brand new cars and nice cars off the lot in doing what we've done for the last 5 years. I don't even know what it's going to cost to be a race team, but the things are getting cheaper. That all these different NASCAR and all the way down to your Friday night racing all have started to really key in on finding ways to, different motors, packages, and different cars, and making it cheaper. And like I said, I know it's not cheap, but it's making it cheaper where we're having an opportunity to see so much more talented drivers that we're going to be able to afford to be out there. And you see that with the ARCA Series and how they redid their cars, and what the K&N Pro Series is doing, and what, the different networks. Do what now?
Is the business thriving off itself? In other words, popularity drives a lot. Of racing driving the economic turn in racing, even though there's been an economic downturn, or do you think it's just leveling out? Because I believe there's an actual growth in racing, and people say, well, it's a wave, and then, that was mentioned tonight, and I believe we're actually in a true growth of racing.
I think we're still down from when we once used to be, but I think that we're coming over we're getting back up to where we once was. I think the sport is growing, and I think the changes and the safety all the way down from your 4-year-olds out there in the go-kart, as we did the show with the young girl, and now they got the little kill switch on the cars now, all the way down from the littlest racing all the way up. They're doing so much now to make all this. I just lost my train of thought. I know what I was about to say, that I just totally lost what I was saying. I got sidetracked on that show and that little girl, and then adding that safety feature.
Yeah.
They're doing all this stuff, and I think it's all going in the right direction. I know a lot of fans of cross racing. We all see this on Facebook.
So popularity is driving motorsports. Popularity is driving motorsports at this point in time.
Yeah, it's going back in the right direction. Once we see Indianapolis sell out, once we see Daytona sell out, once we see these other tracks,
what if there's a broader span of racing that people are getting into? The actual growth of race fans have increased. It's just so many different styles of racing. Is this something that we're going through?
No, because I honestly, I think if you like a certain type of racing, you're going to go watch that certain type of racing. I might like racing, but I know if NASCAR is on and the Sprint Cup Series race is on, that's the only thing I'm DVRing, and that's the only thing I want to say. It don't matter what else is going on during the day. If that's your particular type of racing, that's what you're going to watch. Everything else will fall second to that, or third or fourth or whatever. And when it comes to, if I have an opportunity to buy tickets to go to an NHR race, or go to a Sprint Cup race, or go to a World of Outlaw race, I'm going to spend my money on going to a NASCAR race, because that's the particular type of racing I like. So to me, yes, there's a lot of new racing out there, but I don't think, unless you are a fan of that type of racing, I don't really think it makes a difference, because you like what you like, and you're set in your ways, and so
we've got 45 seconds.
All different types doing better and improving their sports. I don't think that the only way to get somebody switched is that sport really has to do something would really have to jack something up to lose fans like that.
All right, thanks, man. That was another great episode of the Dirt Talk Hour. We went extended there about 30 minutes. Thank you guys for listening in. Thank you for our guests, and we do appreciate y'all calling in. I believe, before we leave, that there is a growth, and that with the growth of motorsports, you'll have more fans added to each number of groups of type of racing. But, guys, thank y'all very much for listening to us next week, and we'll be back on the air, the fastest hour in Dirt Talk Radio. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Any Napa guy knows, and science proves, the best minivan is the one you've already got. Part kid transporter, part drywall mover. Who cares if the faux wood grain is a little faded? That was a platinum package option in 1987. With over 400,000 parts and a little Napa know-how, you can keep anything on the road. Because it's not old, it's vintage. That's Napa know-how.